working? I can't really hear it, is it? Okay, good. Right, well done, bravo. For me, the Bach Prelude was really very good. As opposed to the Fugue, the Prelude was lively and had a lot of character. I like that very much. Excuse me. What we have to concentrate on, I think, is projecting slow music and keeping the interest in the slow music. And a very simple thing that I'd like to recommend, first of all, is that when you have a silence, like a rest, I'm thinking of the Beethoven, not the Fugue. In the Beethoven, the rests were almost always longer than a quaver would have been. Do you call them quavers here? I don't know. Eighth notes, is it? Do you know what I mean? An eighth note. I think that's what you call them in Hong Kong. Okay. Your eighth note rests were much longer than your eighth notes, which means that the overall pulse of the bar tended to get lost. It sort of sank, or sagged, that would be a better word. It sagged whenever it got to the end of a phrase. Let me just see if I can demonstrate what I mean. I can't really see it probably, but it doesn't matter. Actually, there aren't any rests there. I'm sorry, that's the wrong place. Here we are. That's a good example there. Instead of, this is what you did. Sorry. It's like it's another tempo, almost. Although actually the chords were not in another tempo, it's just the rests were. So it's like it's almost like it was a 7/8 bar instead of a 6/8 bar. Yeah. And we all have a tendency for the pulse to sag whenever it's a long chord or a rest. It happens almost all the time. That's also, I don't know whether you were in before, when we had the Rachmaninoff and Prokofiev, but did you hear me talk about I'm not even sure what I was going to say now, just a moment, about the breathing and the preparation for chords and preparation for everything, really. Did you hear me talk about that?
So I should take the rest on time.
Yeah.
In the rhythm.
Well, yes, everything needs to be rhythmic, whatever it is. And we have a tendency, if we're playing slow music, not to be. And actually, if it's romantic slow music, even more, that's the case. But in this particular case, it still applies. And it's much harder to do than if it's quick music, because you need a pulse inside yourself that doesn't alter just because there's a silence, or a long chord. It is about breathing, actually. That's what I was trying to get my thoughts together just then, and I didn't manage it. But yeah, for example, there's a beat there. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. And playing something in time, I know this is a very obvious thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. Playing something in time, in rhythm, doesn't mean it's inexpressive. It's not taking the expression away from it. In fact, in many ways, it's adding to it. Yeah. And of course, it doesn't mean that there's no such thing as rubato. Of course there is. Rubato is something different. There's no reason why you should play it metronomically. It's just that when it's predictably going to slow down because you have a silence, then it's not musical at all. That's not being expressive. That's just basically losing interest. That's what the result would be. Now, let me see. I'm sorry about my creaking. Let's see if we can go back to the beginning of this movement. In bar 4, and definitely in bar 5, you change tempo completely. Partly because this was too slow for what you did later. So, okay. Did you notice there was a long chord there? And here? Same tempo. Perhaps this is a good place to base your overall tempo on, because you have more notes to play, so you can probably latch onto a more natural tempo immediately. So then apply the same one to this. Yeah, and the same goes for the rest of the movement, really. I hope everyone's noticing this is going on. Did you notice? The whole time in this piece. It's not really practical if it's very fast, but music like this, it absolutely has to be. And the most important thing of all, maybe more than anything else, is that sound projects and becomes quite naturally legato, because the notes are singing. You know this word singing, I don't know whether you experience this, but an awful lot of teachers throughout the world, they do this. They write sing over the top of your music on a regular basis, sing. I mean, I have copies of my own that have got it written on it by various individuals from my youth. And I think to myself, what am I supposed to do? And I never did understand what it was. What does it mean? Does it mean bring the top line out more? Because that's what most people do when somebody says sing. Or does it mean actually sing? No, obviously not. What it means is use a vocal style. And that involves breathing. Yeah, which is, I'm basically repeating myself from the previous pianist. Yeah. It means preparing the notes rather than just going like that. I think you saw me before. I mean, a conductor who does that is not going to get anything together. It has to be prepared, otherwise it's hopeless. And the same applies to us, but we tend to do it much more than conductors do. This sort of jab, not doing anything, and then that, which you were doing. If you can develop more of it's a kind of freedom, but not the sort of freedom that's indisciplined, but it's just enabling your whole physique to actually prepare for the note and it arrive inevitably. Yes. I like the word inevitable. The sound you've prepared for is going to happen. At the point you've prepared for it, you've made that happen. Not at the time you do it. Yeah? Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. So the very first chord of this movement would be like that. Pom, not. Yeah? Just, can you try that? Okay. Well, before we go any further, could you play this? Oh, good. Okay, right. Now, from the beginning of the movement to, 5, 6, 1. It's quicker, isn't it, than you thought it was? Through the note. That's it. Yeah, that sounded much better. Now, if I wasn't doing this, I don't know what it would be like. So play it without me wagging my hands around. Yeah? Could you do the beginning again in the same way? So, first of all, this, so that you get a full sound without it being loud. And secondly, no hanging around on the quarter note, which is the C sharp in the melody. Don't slow the tempo down there. Yeah? And then don't accelerate on those repeated B flats. Yeah? And the whole thing will fit into the... So that then becomes an extension of the first phrase of the movement. Yeah? Yeah, it is a phrase. It's not two phrases. Yeah. Okay? Try it again. Without any conducting. I'm sorry. You went. That's it. That was good, wasn't it? Doesn't that feel better? Does that feel better? It has a sense of direction now. Yeah, and it's quite hard to put into words, but the difference between a distant sort of murmuring sound and actually one that projects and is not loud is quite hard to put into words. But this is full, isn't it? It's, first of all, tragic. It projects something tragic. If it was a song, it would definitely have tragic words, yeah? But it's still piano. And it's balancing the two, or getting that balance, that's really hard to do. But it definitely sounded totally different when you went like that. As opposed to... It's like it's got no resonance. It's quite hard for me to demonstrate it, but for that reason, but everything is flexible. It can move the whole time on the key. Never stay still on the key, unless it's incredibly long, the note, I mean. Always move, and preferably towards yourself. Yeah? Yeah, I think that G minor chord there is the climax of the first few bars, isn't it? This one. And then a diminuendo, I suggest. Without slowing down. When you got to those chords there, It wasn't together. And I'm sure you didn't intend it to be spread, did you? It was sort of... Maybe I didn't actually remember to say that about this business of playing like this, but it also means chords can be together much more easily, much more reliably, however quiet they are. Excuse me. Etc. And here's a prize example of how it sings much more with resonance if you play like this. There's one of those suspensions and resolutions in which we have to have the courage to play the suspension with enough stress. And if you do that, it won't be harsh. Let me just say that again. Play it again, I mean. This. I'm exaggerating. That's better. You could even make a slight silence there because it's the end of a phrase, but don't let it slow down. That's fine. It's when you go. It's like the end of every phrase is like breathe a sigh of relief because it sounds like it's the end of the piece. Every 4 bars. It needs to continue on. Of course it does. Yeah. There's a place where you missed half a bar out, by the way. I'm trying to spot where it was. I think it was there. Somewhere around there. Just make sure you learn it again. So, I can't remember exactly where it was, but there was 3 quavers missing, 3 eighth notes. Okay, anyway. Wash my hands. Two, three. 1, 2, 3. And so on. Yeah, I think I'm repeating my points over and over. I'm sorry. It's so fundamental to this music, you know. And I must stress. It doesn't make it inexpressive. I think, I'll say this, I've already said it once, I'll say it again. The danger is that people think that if you play something rhythmically, that it removes its expressiveness. And it doesn't. What removes the expressiveness is not breathing and not preparing for whatever the next moment may be. That's something different. And of course, a breath sometimes does involve what we would call a comma, I suppose, because it prepares a new phrase. But it doesn't mean you lose tempo or allow the music to sag. It's obviously particularly important if it's a very slow piece. In many ways, really slow music is the most difficult to project and to keep the direction. You know? I would take more time over this, as I tried to demonstrate just now. Those arpeggios. Not, but. You don't need to do that, but that's my suggestion. Yeah. And this isn't a suggestion, this is definitely an instruction. 3. However quietly it is. Now there is a point there in which you could make that agogic, I think that's the right word, because you haven't done so already. This point then can be stressed and slightly allegando, I suppose. It could be. Only a suggestion. But, and of course, not to put a pause on the B flat. Could you play the last 2 lines of the movement? Or maybe 3, actually. 3 lines would be good. No, the line before that. The last 3 lines, yeah. Hang on, that's a forte piano. Sorry to be a bore, but the reason that the notes aren't sounding is because you're doing that instead of that. Particularly that one. I didn't hear the bass note at all. Yeah, try it. Beginning of that line, please. From there. Do it again, would you? I'm sorry, that's too long. 2, 3. No. Now you're playing it too fast. The silence mustn't be too long, and the notes mustn't be too quick. Apart from that, it's really good. But you know what I'm saying. Okay, D. You see what I mean? You're doing that. Can I demonstrate to everyone? What I'm saying is that doing that produces an unreliable chord. I couldn't hear the bass at any of the times you played it, including the first time. The bass F natural is not there. And it's not together. If you do that, it will be. Can we go from the bottom D? From there. 2, 3. couldn't hear the D. That one, no, it's not audible. Crescendo. That's better. It needs to have more presence, though, I think. Particularly the crescendo to that E flat. This moment. In fact, that's still forte. It's exactly the sort of passage that could so easily be unreliable, isn't it? With notes not sounding. So it's all that we've been talking about already to make it reliable, so that you don't have to worry about that. I mean, that could so easily be just fail, couldn't it? Obviously, a very exaggerated movement, but that's what it is, yeah, not that. Okay, so that's a very difficult movement, I think. It's a difficult sonata, in fact. And don't you think that's a wonderful thing that you can go? The degree of suddenly the sun comes out. It's just one of the great moments of early Beethoven, I think. And the darker your slow movement is, the more fantastic that change is. Yeah. And the darkness comes through presence, projection, not being afraid of it. One of the biggest enemies of playing the piano is fear. Partly because so many people, when they first learn to play, I really mean when they're very small, very, very young, they have a series of things that they mustn't do. There's an endless list of don't do this and don't do that. And what you actually should do is rarely mentioned. You know, I know that there are exceptions, but so many people just end up having any kind of positivity destroyed by that. They just have to limit everything, you know, not too fast, not too slow, not too this, that and the other. At the end of which, at least we in England, we have this awful habit of describing it as musical, which doesn't mean anything at all. I don't know whether you have that here, but if you don't get it, because it doesn't mean anything. So, the Bach, yes. I was very happy with that prelude. You played it very well. Indeed. But the fugue, that's when the same principles apply as in the Beethoven. Yeah. Long notes must not be slower than the main tempo, and rests shouldn't be longer than, you know. It doesn't apply so much with the rest because there are very few of them, but there are some, and particularly long notes. In fact, it's quite hard for me to remember exactly what happened, but it was something like this. The tempo changed as soon as you had two eighth notes. Do you see what I mean? Of course I'm exaggerating, but when you have bom, a pair of eighth notes or quavers, as soon as you have those, you play them at a different tempo. Yeah. So it sounds like it's sort of limping. Of course, it wasn't exactly how you played it. I'm not pretending it was. But I'm exaggerating it just to make the point. But you were. Every time that there was a pair of quick notes, it went faster, which is the other side of everything I'm saying about rests and long chords being too long, being too slow. Yeah. To bring them together, then you have a steady tempo. So make sure that you've got quavers, eighth notes in your mind before you start. I'm sorry, I don't really know it, but yeah, something like that. Rather than da-da-da. No throwing away of quavers. In Baroque music, it's particularly noticeable because there are so many, there's such a variety of rhythmic patterns in Baroque music. Yeah? In continuous quavers and then semiquavers and then minims and so on. I'm sorry, eighth notes, quarter notes, sixteenths and so on. Yeah, and constantly changing. And if you don't have a pulse that goes through it that remains constant, I don't mean metronomic, but constant. Not quite the same thing. Then it falls apart rhythmically. You just simply can't feel where it's going. It doesn't have any musical direction if you allow it to do that. Yeah. What we must do though with quick notes in this kind of music, probably many other kinds of music as well, but particularly Bach, is make them lighter but not quicker. So the first note of the fugue is quite strong because it's a long note. Bom bom dee bom bom rom bom 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 bom. So your two quavers, sorry, I keep doing that. Your two eighth notes are then light, but the same tempo. Remember that as a basic principle in all music, please. Yeah. If it was Rachmaninoff 3, you know, the cocktail lounge approach to romantic music, yeah. Where every quaver has a word on it, at least in my mind. It's like a Russian, you know what I'm playing here, the Rachmaninoff third, the beginning, which is very much in the style of a Russian folk tune. So you can imagine words on it, even if they're not in Russian. If they are in Russian, it's even more important that every note is present and doesn't get skipped over. And it doesn't really matter what the piece. When there are two quavers, we have a tendency to play them too quickly. Like that. I can't demonstrate without exaggerating. I'm sure you understand, but you know. So much more when the quicker notes are not skipped over. Yeah. And by the way, while I think on suspension and resolution. This. The secret being that there is enough stress on the suspension. I suspect And I don't really know about this, but I suspect that there may be a language thing regarding that between different nationalities. And because that's so obviously a German piece, you know, the music needs to be shaped as a German would sing or speak. Not that I really know how that is, but it feels fairly natural to me because I'm English, and you know we have certain similarities. The idea that it does this is just simply against the tradition of their speech. Just doesn't work, does it? And it must be to do with the stresses in different languages that becomes such an issue, because it really is an issue internationally. It's something to think about. And I suspect that if you were to overcome what I'm talking about, which is basically all the same thing, both of these pieces would be really good, because you have the concentration of the slow music, which is really hard to do. You can make it much more, you can enhance that by keeping the direction in the way that I'm suggesting. Yeah? Okay, it's question time now. Anybody got anything to disagree with me about? I'm sorry, I can't hear you properly. Say again.
Whether we should use the pedal when we play Bach's music.
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, we all play Bach's music, and that includes me, and I use the pedal. And if Bach was there, I suspect he'd say, yeah, fine, as long as it doesn't smudge the harmonies. I suspect. But I don't know. It'd be lovely to be able to ask him, wouldn't it? Does he like that pedal? I suspect he'd be overjoyed by it. But, you know, I think to make a dogmatic thing about not playing with any pedal at all is just silly. And there are people who do that. You know, you shouldn't use pedaling, but well, no, it doesn't. Particularly as the piano itself is modern anyway. Everything about it is different to the instrument he wrote this music for. So that's just another difference. And I suspect one that he would like. But that's just an opinion. I don't really know the answer. What do you think? Sorry?
I don't know, but I usually do not use the pedal.
Okay. Well, it's better exercise for your ankle anyway if you use it more. So, you know. I don't agree with you, really. Because, I mean, seriously, I mean, the sound that the piano makes with the pedal is so different. But again, as long as it doesn't smudge the harmonies, because it must never do that, for sure. But I don't like dogmatic ideas at all about anything, really. So, if that answers your question, it doesn't really, I know, but yes.
I suppose, like, if we're playing a Bach transcription, like Bach Myra Hess, Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring, or her other transcription. I mean, I wonder, like, then you would use a pedal.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Well, in fact, I was just about to mention that I happened to be in the middle of preparing the Bach Busoni transcriptions, all of them. Not the chorale preludes, it's not those, but the big organ works, basically. And of course, you know, Busoni used the pedal all the time. It's a fantastic effect. It's almost like the content of the music is very Bachian, and he absolutely adored and worshipped Bach himself. But it comes from an era in which it was never even thought about. You know, to not use the pedal was never really an issue at that time. But the same goes actually for things like the tempo. You know, it's very difficult to play a Bach fugue without getting gradually quicker. And it's something we all basically know we shouldn't do. It's very hard to prevent it, but we shouldn't. But Busoni writes più mosso and accelerando. So it wasn't something that bothered him. And what we do in a situation like that is sometimes a bit of a dilemma. I mean, for example, how do you approach Stravinsky when he was writing in a neoclassical way? How do you do the ornaments? That was something that bothered me because I did a lot of Stravinsky at one time. What is the right way to approach that? And, you know, I would have actually asked Stravinsky myself if I had the chance, but I never did, unfortunately. But, you know, I wonder, did he think about it? Did Busoni think about it? No, I don't think so. And Myra Hess wouldn't either. She would play it in a rather romantic way. In fact, I think there's a recording of her doing so, isn't there? It's still Bach. It's still wonderful, you know, still very, very recognisably in the style of Bach. It's just that pianistic habits are there, or traditions, and they work really well. I don't think we should agonise over such things, really, myself. There's far, far more important things to worry about. Anybody else got anything to comment on? I wonder how much effect unless you disagree, which I don't think you do, because you'd say so if you did, about this whole thing of playing like that rather than like that. I wonder how realistic you all think it is to do that. Because I can assure you it takes a long time to develop the habit. You have to keep thinking about it, otherwise you end up doing this again. But actually, there's a maestro over here, a conductor. Yes, hello. Now.
Can I say?
Please, yeah.
I was interested about the point about the pedal, for example. Bach was open to all ideas. He may have rejected certain things. If you think the Silverman forte piano coming out of Cristofori was already there for Bach as well. He was hearing this. And the idea that there's a Bach style is,
Yes.
I think, a complete anathema. Because if you look at Bach himself, where he's actually working, there are so many different styles of Bach anyway.
Yeah.
It's something which people get themselves bogged down in.
Yes, they do.
It doesn't work.
Well, it becomes a very easy way of criticising someone.
Yeah.
I think that's the trouble with it.
The interesting thing about the fugue is that I was talking to Andrew about this before, is getting to understand the impact of Palestrina. That's pure Palestrina. Hearing what Bach would have heard with that as well. He's a great interest in Palestrina and the Italian style as well.
Which is very vocal.
Sorry?
Which is very vocal.
And the fact is that operatic music, hearing from Chopin, hearing Bellini, and hearing opera the whole time, growing up with opera. And I thought, well, when you were talking about the idea of language, I was thinking about it in advance as well, because the idea how the Germanic languages work in Britain in particular, which is a mélange of both the Germanic and the Italian languages, I've been such as yourself, and others from that particular region, has a capacity to do this, is it becomes quite natural how you actually alternate the phrase within the language as well. And the aria, it's an aria, and to hear how the Beethoven slow movement works, you need to hear how Mozart then wrote the slow movement as well, based on the operatic style. Sorry.
Which was purely operatic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's very hard for us to remember as pianists that everything we do needs to relate to the voice.
Yes, absolutely. And they would have said so themselves.
Yes, absolutely. Well, what I was going to ask you was what happens if you're conducting an orchestra and you go like this at the beginning of a piece?
Well, they'll attack it. If you twitch with a London orchestra, they twitch with you the whole time. And I remember Schulte, watching him when I was a very young musician. He was doing the Bartok Concerto. I knew Schulte as well. And watching the Concerto for Orchestra with the OPO in 1978. And he used to twitch Schulte the whole time. And the opening Concerto was quite quiet. And every time he would twitch, they would twitch with him as well. And the impact on the phrase was hugely disturbing.
Well, yes. That sounds like a negative.
Yeah, because in that context, because with the as you know better than anybody, the Bartok Concerto Orchestra, it emerges, and if something has to emerge, and all of a sudden you're twitching, that
How interesting.
That detracts from the intent of it. It's what Bernstein said. It's not what the composer wants, it's what we think he wants. In other words, what you think he wants.
Yeah, very good point.
You know, because you'll never know what Bach wanted. We know.
No, but I would like to ask, I would like to summon Bach's ghost into a practice room where there's a Steinway Grand and, I don't know, a Clavinova from his time, and say, go on, play both of those and see which one you prefer. I'd love to know the answer. And I don't mean that facetiously, because it may well be that he preferred the Clavinova. We just don't know. And we don't really mind, because this is the instrument we're playing it on. You know. But yeah, I mean, what I mean by that, when a conductor, a really bad conductor goes like that, then the chord is likely not to be together at all.
There's a very interesting masterclass that George Sill took with the young James Levine, which is on YouTube. They can watch it. Yeah? Is that Don Juan, the opening Don Juan in particular, there's a missing syllable. Yeah, that's every string player's nightmare. That because it's just a, and I remember doing it with Halley, which I had to prepare for John Pritchard, and the way he would do it is hold up mouth straight down. But because they would look and go with you, Zell used to say, if you, he was asked how to do it, and he'd get it various ways, and he said, but Strauss used to go like that. And Jimmy Levine tried to do it, it just fell to pieces. He was young at the time, of course. He said, but you're not Dr. Strauss. And that's the other thing, it's the personality of the musician.
Well, yes, I'm afraid that's the biggest problem conductors have got, is what people expect before they even walk onto the rehearsal. Yeah. But yes, if you want, let's say the beginning of the Beethoven Emperor Concerto, the first chord of that. If you stand there and go like that, it will not be together. And if you go, there's a chance it will be. And it really does apply to playing the piano. It's exactly the same. Instead of, yeah. I've said it already several times, I know, so I'm repeating myself. So, I hope it helps you. Because what you need to do is project more and direct the music. When I say direct it, I mean give it direction. And of course it's more, I mean, if you were playing something very quick that was very impressive technically, it's much easier to project it. It's when it's music like that Beethoven slow movement, that it's really hard to do. It's all about sounds, quality of sounds, variety of sounds, the singing tone, and the rhythmic direction of the piece, and the phrasing of it, so that it really means something to the listener. And then it'll be great. Yeah? Okay? Time for a little bit of a pause, if that's all right. Are we okay for time? Okay. Yes, thank you. Well done.